According to the movie Love and Other Drugs, Maggie has a Parkinson's disease, which can be just as debilitating as movement disorder and have a major impact on her quality of life. Parkinson's disease is the most typically associated with the motor symptoms that are known to occur when dopaminergic neurons degenerate. Many of these non-motor symptoms may appear before motor impairment develops. The neuropathology of Parkinson's disease have shown that motor and non-motor symptoms are caused by complex, interconnected neural networks that are regulated by a range of neurotransmitters in addition to dopamine. Treatments that only focus the dopaminergic system are unable to alleviate both motor and non-motor symptoms, especially in the early age of the disease. The development of drugs that interact with a variety of disease-disrupted neurotransmission systems could be extremely helpful in its treatment. What is Parkinson's disease? Parkinson's disease is a nervous system disease that affects motion. The symptoms appear gradually and may start with a barely visible tremor in only one hand. Tremors are common, although they're commonly accompanied by stiffness or decreased mobility. Since Parkinson's disease can't be cured, drugs can help you feel better.
Love and Other Drugs is a 2010 American romantic comedy movie. In the movie, it attempts to tackle a number of issues. Maggie Murdoch, one of the main characters, suffers from an early stage of Parkinson's disease. In connection to our last discussion, Parkinson's disease is a complex motor disorder that can cause unintentional or uncontrollable movements. It typically occurs due to low levels of dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. It is an important neurotransmitter that plays a critical role in a number of bodily functions. It is a chemical that plays an important role in movement and coordination. Dopamine is said to be responsible for allowing us to feel pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation. What I like about the movie is that they focus on the struggle of Parkinson's disease, and the movie really showed how difficult it is to have that disease.
Dopamine. So attraction involves the brain pathways that controls the reward behavior. So which partly explain why the first weeks or months of a relationship can be exhilarating or even all-consuming. So attraction seems to be a distinct, though closely related phenomenon. So while while we can certainly lust for someone that we are attracted to. So dopamine produced by the hypothalamus, and it is particularly well publicized player in the brain's reward pathway. So it is also released when we do things that feel good to us, and in this case, these things including spending time with our loved ones and having sex. So just like in the movie where Maggie and Jamie is having their quality time.
A norepinephrine is a naturally occurring chemical in the body that acts as a both and stress hormone in a neurotransmitter, a substance that sends signals between nerve cells. It's released into the blood as a stress hormone when the brain perceives that a stressful event has occurred. In Parkinson's disease, the cells that make norepinephrine die off as a part of the disease process. Therefore, people with Parkinson's disease often have low levels of norepinephrine in their blood and in their spinal fluid.
Trihexyphenidyl is a prescription drug to treat all forms of Parkinsonism, including Parkinson's disease, classified as anticholinergic medication. Acetylcholine is the chief neurotransmitter of the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of the autonomic nervous system that contracts muscles, dilate blood vessels, and slow heart rate. Dopamine is responsible for allowing us to feel pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation, and has a role for controlling our body movement. Dopamine depletion leads to increased acetylcholine release, which then activates muscarinic receptors located on the neurons responsible for smooth motor control. The overstimulation of these neurons by acetylcholine that causes tremors and muscle stiffness. This is where anti-muscarinic agents comes into play by blocking the muscarinic and acetylcholine receptors and cholinergic nerve activity. As a result, anticholinergic agents or artane Maggie uses restores the balance between acetylcholine and dopamine to improve her early onset Parkinson's.
The biggest thing that produced endorphins and enkephalins in the film was having safe, consensual sex that happens a lot in the film, and this is a picture of a fun way to release endorphins. Endorphins are released in the brain in conjunction with sexual behavior such as arousal and orgasm. Orgasm also releases the hormone oxytocin, which counteracts the stress hormone cortisol and can help you feel happier and more relaxed. Results are consistent with the hypothesis that the endorphins and enkephalins represent a new class of central neurotransmitters. Among other functions, these peptides may play a role in the regulation of behavior and expressions of psychopharmacological agents such as opiate alkaloids. Endorphins are the body's natural painkillers. Endorphins are released by hypothalamus and pituitary gland in response to pain or stress.
Serotonin syndrome can occur when you increase the dose of certain medication or start taking a new medication, such as medication for migraine, antidepressant. Some medication can daily supplement or associate with serotonin syndrome just like in the movie Love and Other Drugs. Because Maggie has stage 1 early onset Parkinson's, the symptoms she knows are accurate for the diagnosis, as are the medication she is taking. Her depression was treated with the Prozac but clearly out of control. Parkinson's disease, in particular depression, is known as a common symptom and comorbidity. Throughout the course of film, I regularly see Maggie's depression and embarrassment in her diagnosis. Maggie's depression worsened as her symptoms progressed. Her work as a photographer artist became a struggle with her skills. He ran out of medicine and treated himself to alcohol.
Pheromones is a chemical signal that is released outside of the body by members of a species and that influences the behavior of other members of the same species, just like in a movie of Love and Other Drugs. Maggie discovers the proud in the course of an argument with Jamie. About it, they both grow up so passionate that will they rip off each other's clothes and fall upon a bed in the conclusion or confusion of sheets and moss. Maggie and Jamie discover that they really like each other. She has something she wants to tell him.
Dopamine is a neuromodulatory molecule that plays several important roles in cells. It is an organic chemical of the catecholamine and phenethylamine families. Dopamine constitutes about 80% of the catecholamine content in the brain. Dopamine is so-called messenger substance or neurotransmitter that conveys signals between neurons. It is only controls mental and emotional responses, but also motor reactions. Dopamine is particularly known as being the happy hormones. It is responsible for our experiencing happiness.
The amino acid neurotransmitters are common neurotransmitters in the central nervous system. Amino acids are the most abundant neurotransmitters in the brain. It also presumed to play an important role in the pathogenesis of depression. Amino acid neurotransmitters are all products of intermediary metabolism, and it have been divided into two. First is excitatory amino acid transmitters and inhibitory amino acid transmitters. They provide the majority of neurotransmitters nervous system and it have been implicated in human disease and it used for synaptic transmission and compartmentalized. Initially, amino acids were not considered viable candidates for neurotransmitters since cellular constituents are required for protein synthesis.